Thank you all for staying with us throughout the event. To conclude, it's my privilege to introduce David Small, Global VP of Sales at Datagaps Inc. His leadership and expertise have been key in advancing data innovation and excellence. Please join me in welcoming him to deliver his closing remarks and gratitude.
Thank you, Pooja. And thank you, everyone, for attending. It's been a great session, a lot of good speakers and a lot of good insights. So first of all, I'd like to thank our Datagaps marketing team for organizing this second annual Data Summit. And, there's a lot of hard work and dedication in creating these types of events. And it's really for meaningful dialogue and exchange of ideas and such. So very much appreciated for the Datagaps marketing team. We had a number of really good speakers, and I'd like to just go through and highlight a couple of things. Naren kicked the thing off with really talking about companies moving from that data-driven type of company to an AI-driven organization. And I think that change is becoming apparent almost every place you go. And as people are moving to that AI supported company, data supported and AI supported company, a lot of things happen. And one of the problems is a lack of trust in the data. So that's one of the things that Datagaps focuses on, and something that we're all about. One observation that he had was 85% of all the Gen AI projects don't make it into production. And probably the number one issue behind that was trust and the issue with LLM hallucinations. We then had William, the keynote speaker, which I thought was fabulous, and talked about bias and a lot of things. He talked about the need for accurate data and getting that accurate data and the information, that data and information in the hands of the people that need it and are impacted most. He went through an example of when he was deployed and moving out to recover vehicles, and there was a minor bit of information that wasn't conveyed to him, and which could have been catastrophic, but in this particular case, it all worked out. But, a lot of his talk was about getting the information in the hands of the people at the right time, avoiding that information or confirmation bias. And I thought he did an outstanding job of discussing things that are pertinent and making that transition or that leap from some of his experiences in the military to what it's like in civilian life and such. We also had EQBot or Quantum Street AI. They helped explain how critical it is to have high quality data feeding your machine learning models. And in their case, they had very large amounts of data, and it would take them 5 to 7 days to ingest and move that data through their data quality verification. And the reason they needed to do this is, you spend a lot of time and money and effort in building these models. And in their particular case, these models were really used to go against market data. So, it's their reputation and they can't be wrong. We had Paul from NatWest explaining the driving forces behind improving the data journey and the systematic way that they approach solving their challenges. He also talked about their shift left methodology, which we heard multiple times in the presentations. And, the point being is the earlier you catch issues in your data pipeline, the less expensive they are to correct, but also the less damage that they can do. We had Anisha and Joseph and Hints, and they walked us through some of their observations in the market and what they see in the future. They said the data is a gold mine waiting to be refined, and I think we all have that same feeling. That's been discussed, and that's been that feeling for quite a while. They also mentioned that 83% of the corporations have embraced AI. So quite a large number. But again, if you go back to Naren stat, we may be embracing it, but it's not making it to production. And a lot of that has to do with quality of data and a variety of things. Anisha and Joseph also talked about the Samsung fat finger data quality issue, which cost Samsung $300 million in market cap. I would say that's a pretty big fat finger issue. And then Unity Technologies, where they had a $110 million error due to poor data. And poor data in the U.S., according to them, and this is substantiated almost every stat that you see, it really costs U.S. companies about $3 trillion a year in terms of bad data. Martin from TaxRetail, thought he gave a great presentation, talked about the uncontrolled expansion of disparate insights and the fact that, in corporations there are silos, there's multiple data analytics, there's multiple processes, multiple data warehouses, and really there was this lack of alignment between things and what they were doing at TaxRetail to try to help eliminate that. And then Jody from Focal, I think, gave a really enlightening presentation. And she was quite impressive with her knowledge of AI and machine learning, and did a great job of putting things into perspective for the rest of us. She discussed the current data quality challenges and offered ideas on how that can be improved. Again, 85% of all the CEOs are worried about data quality when they're making strategic decisions. So that 80-85% number keeps popping up, whether it has to do with AI or it has to do with data quality. But it's still a problem that we still need to address, and we haven't solved it completely or haven't adopted solutions completely. We had Manish from IBM. He talked about the solution levers that they have. He also talked about the shift left approach, the need for automation, component and end-to-end testing of the data journey. He also discussed the importance of CI/CD integration. Went through a case study that IBM worked on where two banks, were merging. In the complexity of the project, they had 29 million accounts that had to be merged between the two banks. And really, he said they couldn't do this without the automation. So finally, as we move towards the end of this summit, I hope we can carry the ideas shared here today into action. Let's continue to collaborate and innovate and make a difference along the way. More on a personal note, through my career, I've always tried to be guided by a few things that remain constant. And one of the things is that, in my view, we never should be losing curiosity. And people that are highly curious and don't lose that curiosity are normally highly productive, intelligent, and they always are looking for better ways to do things. So as an example, being curious about Gen AI and, embracing that as opposed to moving away from that and being curious about it, I think you'll find a wide range of things that you can do if you enable that or embrace that. One of my favorite sayings has to do with believing in yourself, and the saying is, whether you believe you can do something or believe you can't, either way you're probably correct, and that's from Henry Ford. But I've always liked that because you ought to have confidence in yourself and believe in yourself. And, there's a lot of difference between belief and confidence and hubris. But if you have that sincere belief in yourself and your abilities to get things accomplished, I think that takes you a long way. And then the last one that, again, this is my personal view on things, is really to have a plan for yourself. And share that plan with the people that can influence and that do have a positive impact on your future. And I always love the saying that if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. in the case of careers and progressions and all kinds of things that we get involved in, having that plan is critical to getting where you want to be. So thank you once again for the incredible opportunity. It looks like we look forward to staying connected and building on the momentum we've created here. If you have questions to us, we're not just a software manufacturer. We also take questions. If you have some questions, you want to bounce ideas off of us, feel free to give us a call, even if you're not wanting to buy some of our software. We see a lot of different kinds of scenarios, and we're happy to convey our thoughts and ideas along those lines. So feel free to reach out to us, and we appreciate everything today and your attention today. And I think the sessions are over. Appreciate it. You have a good rest of your day.